The small ship floated quietly near the edge of the Kepler Nebula. Inside, Lieutenant Jake Morrison checked the scanning equipment one more time. His team had been out here for 2 weeks, mapping mineral deposits and recording data about the local star systems. It was routine work, the kind that made people back home think scout duty was boring. Jake knew better. Space was never truly safe, but so far this mission had been peaceful. Corporal Lisa Martinez sat in the pilot seat, her fingers moving across the controls with practiced ease. She had been flying ships for the United Earth Space Navy for 5 years now. This was her 3rd tour with the Scout Corps, and she enjoyed the quiet work. No combat, no drama, just her, the stars, and a good crew. "Got another mineral field marked," said Petty Officer Katie Walsh from her station. She handled communications and sensors, keeping track of everything around them. "Looks like iron and nickel, pretty standard stuff." Jake nodded and made a note in the log. Their ship, Scout 47, was small compared to military vessels. It could barely hold the 6 crew members and their equipment. But it was fast, efficient, and perfect for survey work. They were supposed to be out here for another week before heading back to the main fleet. That was when the alarm started blaring. "Contact!" Katie's voice went sharp. 3 large vessels just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. "They're huge, sir. Each one is at least 100 times our size." Jake felt his stomach drop. He moved to look at her screen. 3 massive ships were moving toward them in a tight formation. They were unlike anything in the Earth Navy database. The design was alien, covered in strange armor plating and weapon ports. "Try to make contact," Jake ordered, keeping his voice calm even though his heart was racing. "Let them know we're peaceful." Katie opened all the standard communication channels. "This is United Earth Space Navy Scout 47 to approaching vessels. We are conducting peaceful survey operations. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." There was no response. The alien ships kept coming, their speed increasing. "Sir, they're powering up weapons," said Sergeant Danny Hayes from the weapons console. Danny was their combat specialist, though they rarely needed one on scout missions. He looked tense as he watched the readings. Multiple weapon systems coming online. Jake made a quick decision. "Lisa, start moving us away from them. Nice and slow, we don't want to seem aggressive. Katie, keep broadcasting our peaceful intentions." The scout ship began to drift away from the approaching vessels. For a moment, Jake hoped they would just leave. Maybe this was all a misunderstanding. Maybe the aliens were just being cautious. Then the first plasma bolt hit their shields. The ship shook hard. Warning lights flashed across every console. Jake grabbed his seat to keep from falling. "Shields holding, but that was a direct hit," called out Corporal Amy Stone from the engineering station. "They're definitely shooting at us on purpose." "Return fire," Jake ordered, his jaw tight. "Target their weapon systems only. Danny, make every shot count. We need to buy time." Danny's hands flew across his controls. The scout ship's weapons were nothing special. They had light railguns designed for clearing asteroids and maybe scaring off pirates. They were never meant to fight actual warships. But Danny was good at his job, and he put that first shot exactly where it needed to go. The railgun round punched through the lead alien ship's shields and took out one of its main weapon arrays. Sparks and debris exploded from the impact point. "Good shot," Lisa called out as she threw the ship into a hard turn. More plasma fire streaked past them, missing by meters. "These guys are not friendly." "Katie, get a distress signal out now," Jake said. "Tight beam to the nearest fleet assets. Let them know we're under attack." Katie worked frantically at her station. "Signal away, sir. Nearest help is the carrier group Valiant. They're 4 hours away at maximum speed." 4 hours. They had to survive for 4 hours against 3 warships that outgunned them completely. Jake looked around at his crew. They were all looking at him, waiting for orders. These were good people. Scientists, engineers, pilots. They had combat training like everyone in the military, but they were not frontline soldiers. They were scouts, but they were also humans, and humans did not go quietly. "All right, listen up," Jake said firmly. "We've got 4 hours until help arrives. That means we fight smart, we fight together, and we don't give these aliens anything easy. Lisa, keep us moving. Danny, target their weapons and engines. Everyone else, damage control and support. We're getting through this. The crew responded with quick nods and got to work. The scout ship accelerated hard, Lisa's piloting skills pushing the small vessel to its limits. She wove through the incoming fire with moves that seemed impossible. The ship twisted and turned, diving and climbing through three-dimensional space. Danny kept firing, his shots precise and devastating. Another railgun round disabled the second alien ship's main engines. A third shot took out a weapon battery on the lead vessel. The aliens had bigger guns and more armor, but the scout ship was faster and had a better weapons operator. On the alien flagship, Commander Zekthor watched in disbelief as his formation fell apart. This tiny ship should have been an easy capture. His warriors had taken hundreds of vessels before, but these humans were different. They did not flee in panic. They did not try to surrender. Instead, they fought back with skill and determination that shocked him. "All ships launch fighters," Zekthor ordered. "If we cannot hit them with our main weapons, we will swarm them." Hatches opened on all three alien cruisers. Small fighter craft poured out like angry insects. Within seconds, nearly 200 fighters were screaming toward the human scout ship. "Oh no," Lisa muttered, seeing the swarm on her sensors. "Jake, we've got a problem." "I see it," Jake said. His mind raced through options. They could not outrun that many fighters. They could not shoot them all down. But maybe they did not have to. Danny switched to point defense mode. "Katie, help him with targeting priorities. Pete. Amy, I need you on damage control. We're about to take some hits." Petty Officer Pete Larson moved quickly to help Amy at the engineering station. He was their systems specialist, good at keeping things running even when they should not be. They would need that skill now. The fighters hit them like a wave. The scout ship's automated defense systems came online, small rapid-fire guns tracking and shooting at the incoming craft. Danny coordinated the fire, prioritizing the closest threats. His screen was a mass of red dots, each one representing an enemy trying to kill them. The first fighter exploded as a burst of fire caught it. Then another, and another. But there were so many of them. Some got through the defensive fire. Plasma bolts hammered against the scout ship's shields. "Shields down to 60%, Amy called out. "Hull temperature rising. We're taking damage to the outer plating." Lisa kept the ship moving in wild patterns, never staying in one place long enough to be an easy target. She grunted with effort as she pulled the ship through a hard roll, avoiding a cluster of fighters that tried to box them in. "These pilots are good," she said through gritted teeth. "They're learning our patterns." "Then change the patterns," Jake said. "Do something unexpected." Lisa grinned despite the danger. She suddenly reversed thrust and spun the ship backward. The fighters that had been chasing them shot past, confused by the sudden maneuver. Danny took advantage of their confusion and destroyed 3 more before they could react. The battle continued for what felt like hours, but was only minutes. The scout ship's crew worked together like a well-oiled machine. They called out warnings to each other, covered each other's mistakes, and supported each other through the chaos. This was what their training had prepared them for, even if they never expected to use it. On the alien ships, the fighter pilots were reporting back in confusion and frustration. This human ship was too fast, too unpredictable. Every time they thought they had it cornered, it slipped away. And those defensive weapons were incredibly accurate. They had already lost over 40 fighters. Commander Zekthor could not believe what he was seeing. His tactical officer kept giving him reports, but each one sounded more impossible than the last. "Sir, we have lost 47 fighters now. The remaining pilots are requesting permission to withdraw and regroup." "Denied." Zekthor slammed his hand down. "Ready the boarding craft. If we cannot destroy them, we will capture them. I want to see what kind of creatures these humans are." Large, torpedo-shaped vessels launched from the alien cruisers. These were boarding craft designed to attach to enemy ships and cut through their hulls. Dozens of them headed toward the scout ship. Jake saw them coming. "They're trying to board us." "Lisa, try to shake them off. Everyone else, prepare for close combat. If they get inside, we fight them here." The crew grabbed their sidearms. These were simple pistols, standard military issue. Nothing fancy, but they would have to do. Jake checked his weapon and looked at his team one more time. They were tired, scared, but still focused. Still ready. "Remember your training," he said quietly. "We hold them at every corridor, every door. This is our ship, our territory. We know every corner of it. Use that advantage." The boarding craft were getting closer. Their shaped explosive charges. The boarding torpedoes hit the scout ship's hull with tremendous force. The shaped charges exploded, blowing open 3 separate holes in the outer armor. Through these breaches poured the Vakrian warriors, tall creatures standing nearly 7 feet high. They wore thick armor and carried plasma rifles that glowed with deadly energy. Each warrior had been trained for combat, bred for conquest. They expected quick victory. They were very wrong. The first group of Vakrians pushed into the engineering section, their sensors showing heat signatures ahead. They moved in tight formation, weapons ready. The corridor was dark and narrow, forcing them to advance in a line. Their night vision systems activated, painting the world in shades of green. Sergeant Danny Hayes waited in the darkness behind a barricade of equipment boxes. He controlled his breathing, keeping perfectly still. Years of training helped him stay calm, even though his heart was pounding. He counted the footsteps. 5 warriors, 6, 7, wait for it, wait. "Amy now," he whispered into his communicator. The lights went out completely. The Vakrian's night vision system scrambled for a moment, trying to adjust. That moment was all Danny needed. He opened fire. His rifle barked 3 times. 3 Vakrians fell. The others scattered, trying to find cover in the cramped space. But Danny knew this ship inside and out. He knew every corner, every hiding spot. He moved to a different position and fired again. 2 more warriors dropped. The remaining Vakrians retreated back toward the breach, calling for reinforcements. Their leader could not understand what happened. They had overwhelming numbers and superior weapons. How had they lost 5 warriors in seconds? In the cargo bay, Lisa Martinez and Katie Walsh had set up their own defensive position. They had pushed cargo containers into a V-shape, creating a kill zone. Any Vakrians coming through the southern breach would walk right into their crossfire. "You know," Lisa said, checking her rifle one more time. "I joined the scouts because they said it was safe. See the galaxy," they said. "Map some rocks," they said. Nobody mentioned fighting 7-foot alien warriors. Katie laughed nervously. "At least it is not boring anymore." "I would take boring right now." The first Vakrians appeared at the breach. They saw the cargo bay and started forward confidently. These warriors had conquered a dozen worlds. They feared nothing. Lisa and Katie opened fire together. The Vakrians' shields absorbed the first shots, but they were designed for energy weapons, not solid projectiles. The human bullets punched through and found their targets. 3 warriors fell in the first volley. The others dove for cover behind debris, returning fire. Plasma bolts streaked across the cargo bay, superheating the air. One bolt hit near Lisa's head, and she felt the burning heat even from several feet away. "They're pinned," Katie said, "but they'll call for more troops." "Let them come," Lisa replied grimly. "We'll be waiting." Meanwhile, Jake Morrison coordinated the defense from the bridge. Multiple screens showed him the positions of his crew and the invading Vakrians. He could see the battle developing across the ship. The aliens had numbers, but his crew had preparation and knowledge of the terrain. "Pete, how long until we can seal those breaches?" Petty Officer Pete Larson was frantically working on the emergency systems. 15 minutes if I can reroute power from life support. But we'll be breathing thin air until then. Do it. 15 minutes, everyone. We hold for 15 minutes, then we seal them out. Jake turned to the corridor leading to the bridge. More Vakrians were approaching from that direction. He raised his weapon and waited. When the first alien appeared around the corner, Jake fired 3 precise shots. The warrior's shield flickered and died. The next shot dropped him, but more kept coming. Jake fell back slowly, firing and moving. He used every piece of cover, every angle. The Vakrians were strong and well-armed, but they were fighting in a human ship designed for human-sized crew. The ceilings were too low for them. The corridors too narrow. Every advantage went to the defenders. Sub-Commander Krell led the main assault force. He was a veteran of 50 campaigns, decorated for bravery and skill. But he had never faced an enemy like this. His warriors were dying in these narrow passages, unable to use their numerical advantage. The humans fought like demons, appearing and disappearing, striking from unexpected angles. "This makes no sense," he growled into his communicator to Commander Zekthor. "These are scouts, not warriors. Why do they fight so well?" "Because they are humans," Zekthor replied, reviewing data his intelligence officers had quickly gathered. Their entire species has military training. Every single one of their space personnel goes through combat preparation. The ship's designation says scouts, but they are still soldiers. Then we need more troops, Krell said. Many more. Hundreds of additional Vakrian warriors poured into the ship. The narrow corridors became packed with bodies. But this just made things worse for the aliens. In the confined spaces, they could not maneuver or spread out. They became targets. Amy Stone had been monitoring the situation from her engineering console. She saw the massive influx of enemy troops and had an idea. Jake, I can rig some of the fuel cells to explode. We could collapse whole sections of corridor. Do it, Jake ordered immediately. Set them up along the withdrawal routes. We're falling back to the bridge anyway. Amy worked quickly, her hands steady despite the sounds of battle echoing through the ship. She set up 3 separate charges, each one timed to detonate on her command. When she was done, she grabbed her rifle and moved toward the bridge with the others. The human crew retreated in stages. Danny would hold a position while Lisa and Katie fell back. Then they would cover him while he moved. Pete and Amy worked together, covering each other. Jake stayed in the middle, coordinating everything. When the last crew member passed each checkpoint, Amy triggered the charges. The explosions were small but effective. Sections of corridor collapsed, cutting off the Vakrian advance. The aliens had to find other routes, buying the humans precious time. Finally, all 6 crew members reached the bridge. Jake sealed the main door and activated the emergency locks. The bridge was the most heavily armored part of the ship, designed to survive even if the rest of the vessel was destroyed. It would take the Vakrians significant time to cut through. Sound off, Jake said. Everyone okay? They all reported in. Some minor injuries, burns and cuts, but nothing serious. They were exhausted and nearly out of ammunition, but they were alive. Pete, status on those SEALs? 3 minutes. The system is almost ready. Katie checked her communications console. Sir, the carrier group is signaling. They've jumped into the system and are approaching fast. The aliens are being ordered to stand down. About time, Lisa muttered, slumping against her console. But Sub-Commander Krell was not done yet. He had lost too many warriors, suffered too much embarrassment. His personal honor demanded victory. He ordered his remaining troops to make one final push on the bridge. The cutting torches activated on the bridge doors. Molten metal began to drip as the Vakrians worked to break through. Jake and his crew formed a line, weapons ready. They had maybe 10 bullets each left. It would have to be enough. The door exploded inward. Through the smoke and flames, Krell charged in personally, his warriors behind him. He expected to see broken, defeated humans ready to surrender. Instead, he found 6 calm individuals pointing weapons at his head. Your choice, Jake said steadily. Surrender now or we finish this fight. But I promise you we will not go down alone. Krell looked into Jake's eyes and saw no fear there, just determination. Cold, hard determination. The human was serious. They would fight to the death if necessary. For the first time in his military career, Krell made the decision to surrender. He lowered his weapon. We yield. The bridge was silent for a moment. Then slowly the other Vakrians lowered their weapons too. Jake kept his rifle steady, not trusting the situation yet. Tell your troops to withdraw, he ordered. Back to your ships, slowly. Krell gave the orders. The Vakrian warriors began retreating through the ship, leaving their dead behind. They moved carefully, knowing that the humans were still watching, still ready. When the last alien had left the scout ship, Pete activated the emergency seals. The 3 breaches closed, thick plates of metal sliding into place. The ship was secure again. Jake finally lowered his weapon. His hands were shaking slightly now that the adrenaline was fading. Around him, his crew sagged with relief and exhaustion. We did it, Katie said softly. We actually survived. Hell of a first contact, Lisa added, managing a weak smile. Through the view screen, they could see the human fleet arriving. 23 warships led by the massive carrier Valiant. The Vakrian cruisers were already retreating, their commander apparently deciding that discretion was the better choice. Jake activated the communication system. Scout 47 to Carrier Valiant. Thanks for the assist, though we had things under control. Captain Helen Cruz's voice came back and she sounded amused. I can see that, Lieutenant. Though you might want to work on your definition of under control. Your ship looks like someone used it for target practice. Just needs a little paint, ma'am. Get your crew to medical once you dock. And Jake? Good work, all of you. The crew of Scout 47 looked at each other. They had survived. Captain Helen Cruz stood on the bridge of the carrier Valiant, studying the data from the battle. Her fleet had jumped into the Kepler system expecting to find debris and casualties. Instead, they found a small scout ship that had somehow defeated 3 alien cruisers. The scout ship was damaged but still flying. Its crew was alive, and the alien fleet was retreating with significant losses. "Pull up the complete battle recording," Helen ordered her tactical officer. The view screen showed the fight from beginning to end. Helen watched as the tiny scout ship dodged plasma fire, returned shots with incredible accuracy, and fought off hundreds of enemy fighters. She watched the desperate defense during the boarding action. She saw 6 ordinary scouts hold off an entire invasion force. They were supposed to be looking at rocks, Helen muttered. How did they end up starting an interstellar incident? Commander Luis Ramirez, her intelligence officer, pulled up additional data. The aliens are called Vacrians according to their communication signals. They control about 15 star systems in this sector. Military culture, expansion-focused. They have a history of attacking first and asking questions never. So our scouts got jumped by the local bullies, Helen summarized. And the bullies got a bloody nose. More like a broken jaw, ma'am. The Vacrians lost 47 fighters, 3 cruisers heavily damaged, and nearly 200 warriors killed or wounded. The scouts used weapons designed for mining and managed to cripple a small fleet. Helen shook her head in amazement. "Get Lieutenant Morrison on the line." Jake's face appeared on the screen. He looked exhausted with a cut on his forehead that medical staff were treating. Behind him, Helen could see the rest of his crew receiving attention from doctors. "Lieutenant Morrison, this is Captain Cruz. Care to explain how you managed to start what might become an interstellar war?" Jake managed a tired smile. "They shot first, ma'am. We declined to die quietly. I saw the recordings. Your crew fought well, very well. But you do understand this is going to cause problems?" "Yes, ma'am. But with respect, they initiated hostile contact. We defended ourselves according to our training and standing orders. Would you have preferred we surrender?" Helen considered that. If Jake had surrendered, the Vacrians would have learned that humans were weak, that they could be pushed around. Other species might have decided Earth was easy prey. Instead, one scout team had shown that humans would fight back, that attacking human ships was dangerous even when they seemed defenseless. "No, Lieutenant, you did the right thing. Get your crew to medical and get some rest. We will handle things from here." After the call ended, Helen turned to Luis. "What do we know about the Vacrians' government structure?" "They are led by a council of warlords. The supreme military commander is High Warlord Vexnal. Very traditional, very proud. This defeat will embarrass them. Can we negotiate with embarrassed warlords? Depends on how smart they are. If they are wise, they will seek peace and gather more information about us. If they are proud and foolish, they will want revenge." Helen made her decision. "Send a message to this Vexnal. Tell him we are prepared to discuss what happened here. We did not seek conflict, but we will defend ourselves if attacked again. Make it clear and professional." The message was sent. For several hours, there was no response. Helen kept her fleet on alert, ready for either diplomacy or battle. Finally, the Vacrians replied. High Warlord Vexnal would speak with the human commander. The holographic display activated, showing a tall, armored figure. Vexnal looked like a warrior, covered in scars and bearing the insignia of high rank. His expression was hard to read, but Helen sensed anger barely held in check. "I am Captain Helen Cruz of the United Earth Space Navy. Thank you for agreeing to speak with me. Your vessels have entered our territory without permission," Vexnal said bluntly. "This is an act of war. Your forces fired upon one of our survey ships without warning or provocation," Helen replied calmly. "That is the act of war. We are here to ensure the safety of our people and to prevent further incidents. Your survey ship destroyed our military vessels and killed our warriors. After your forces attacked first. Let me be very clear about what happened, Warlord. You encountered a small, lightly armed vessel engaged in peaceful scientific work. You chose to attack it without any attempt at communication. The crew defended themselves using the minimal weapons they had available. Now you are upset that humans do not simply surrender when attacked." Vexnal's expression darkened, but he could not dispute the facts. His forces had initiated the violence. The humans had only responded, "What do you want, Captain?" First, acknowledgement that your forces started this conflict. Second, immediate establishment of a neutral zone between our territories. Third, opening of diplomatic channels so we can avoid future misunderstandings. And fourth, an understanding that any future attacks on human vessels will be met with full military response. You speak boldly for a species we have never heard of before. Helen leaned forward slightly. You attacked a scout team, Warlord. 6 people whose job is to study minerals and map star systems. They were not special forces, not elite warriors, just trained personnel doing survey work. They had basic weapons meant for clearing asteroids, and they still crippled 3 of your cruisers. Do you really want to find out what our actual military can do? The silence that followed was heavy. Helen could see Vexnal processing the implications. If a scout team could do that much damage, what would happen if the Vakrians faced an actual human battle fleet? We will withdraw from the system, Vexnal finally said. A neutral zone can be established. Diplomatic channels will be opened. A wise choice, Helen replied. We do not seek war with the Vakrian Empire. But we will not allow our people to be attacked without consequence. This is not finished, Captain Cruz. Your species is new to this region of space. There are many dangers here, many powers greater than your small fleet. Then they should learn the same lesson you did today. Humans prefer peace, but we are very good at war when necessary. The transmission ended. Helen looked around her bridge. Her crew had been listening to the entire conversation. They looked proud of their captain and their species. Louis, send a full report to Earth Command. Everything that happened here, every sensor reading, every communication. They need to know we have made first contact and it was hostile. Yes, ma'am. Should we expect more Vakrian attacks? I doubt it, at least not immediately. They will need time to lick their wounds and think about whether we are worth the trouble. But we should increase patrols along our borders. This incident will attract attention from other species too. Helen was right. Word of the battle was already spreading through the network of civilizations that inhabited this region of space. Trade stations, diplomatic outposts, and intelligence services were all buzzing with the news. The Vakrian Empire, known for their military might, had been fought to a standstill by 6 humans in a survey ship. At the Crossroads trading station, various species gathered to discuss the implications. Ambassador Kelris of the Seth Collective watched the leaked battle footage with great interest. These humans are new to the galactic community, Kelris said to the assembled representatives. Yet they fight with remarkable skill. The Vakrians have been expanding aggressively for years. Perhaps they have finally met a species that will check their ambitions. We should establish contact with Earth, suggested another representative. Open trade relations, exchange information. If the humans are going to be a new power in this region, we should seek alliance rather than conflict. Similar conversations were happening across dozens of systems. Some species saw humanity as potential allies. Others saw them as potential threats. A few, like the Vakrian Empire, saw them as mysteries that needed to be understood before any major decisions were made. On the damaged Scout 47, Jake Morrison and his crew were being debriefed by intelligence officers from the Valiant. They answered questions about the battle, about Vakrian tactics and technology, about every detail they could remember. You handled yourselves well, one intelligence officer said, better than many combat veterans would have. How do you explain that? Danny Hayes shrugged. We trained for this. Every person in the Space Navy goes through the same combat courses. Sure, we specialized in different fields afterward, but the foundation is the same. When those aliens attacked, we just did what we were taught to do. Fight back, Lisa added. Never give up. Use every advantage. Basic stuff, really. The intelligence officer made notes. The Vakrians seemed shocked by your resistance. They expected you to surrender or flee. That's on them, Jake said. Maybe they are used to bullying species that can't fight back. We're not that kind of species. After the debriefing, the crew was finally allowed to rest. They gathered in the medical bay, too wired to sleep despite their exhaustion. What do you think happens now? Katie asked. Do we go back to survey work like nothing happened? I doubt it, Jake replied. We just became the first humans to fight aliens. That's going to follow us around, Amy laughed. We signed up to map asteroids and somehow ended up as war heroes. My mom is never going to believe this. Your mom? Pete said. My dad told me scout duty would be safe. He said it was basically a vacation with a paycheck. I'm never listening to him again. 3 weeks after the battle at Kepler Nebula, the Vakrian High Council gathered in their fortress capital on Vak Prime. The council chamber was a massive room carved from black stone, decorated with banners from conquered worlds. 12 warlords sat in a circle, each one a veteran of countless campaigns. Today they had one purpose: understand what had happened with the humans. High Warlord Vexenal stood at the center of the circle. He had spent weeks gathering every bit of information about humanity that he could find. The results troubled him deeply. He activated the holographic display, and images of Jake Morrison and his crew appeared above the assembled warlords. These are the 6 individuals who defeated 3 of our cruisers and killed nearly 200 of our warriors. Vexenal began. Lieutenant Jake Morrison, age 32. Corporal Lisa Martinez, age 29. Sergeant Danny Hayes, age 34. The others are similar in age and rank. Elder Counselor Thexerus, the oldest and most experienced warlord present, leaned forward to study the images. They look young, untested. What is their military rank? That is the interesting part, Vexenal replied. According to human classification, they are Scout Corps. Their primary function is exploration and survey work. They study planets, map systems, and collect scientific data. Then how did they fight like elite warriors? Another counselor demanded. Scouts should not have that level of combat capability. Vexenal pulled up new data. Because humans train all their military personnel the same way. Every single person who joins their space navy, regardless of their eventual job, must complete identical basic combat training. Scientists, engineers, medical staff, scouts all go through the same program. He displayed footage from human training facilities. The counselors watched as human recruits learned hand-to-hand combat, weapons handling, tactical thinking, and survival skills. The training looked brutal and intense. This seems inefficient, Thexerus observed. Why waste resources training a scientist to fight? Why teach an engineer combat tactics? Because of their history, Vexenal explained, pulling up historical records from Earth. Humanity evolved on what they classify as a death world. Extreme weather, dangerous predators, limited resources in many regions. They spent thousands of years fighting each other for survival. The display showed images from human wars throughout history, ancient battles with swords and spears, medieval sieges with catapults and arrows, industrial age conflicts with trenches and machine guns, modern warfare with tanks, aircraft, and nuclear weapons. They have been at war with themselves for their entire recorded history. Vexenal continued. Their culture is built around conflict and survival. Even now in peacetime, they prepare constantly for the next war. Surely they have achieved peace since reaching the stars, one counselor suggested hopefully. They have not had a major war in 70 years, Vexenal conceded. But they still train as if one could start tomorrow. Every human ship, even civilian vessels, carries weapons. Every crew member practices combat regularly. They call it being prepared. We might call it paranoia, but it makes them incredibly dangerous. He displayed more footage, this time of human military exercises. Massive fleet maneuvers with hundreds of ships moving in perfect coordination. Ground forces practicing assault tactics in hostile environments. Special operations teams conducting impossible missions with minimal equipment. Their technology is roughly equal to ours, Vexenal continued. In some areas they are behind us. In others, like artificial intelligence and sensor systems, they are ahead. But technology is not their real advantage. Their advantage is psychological. He played back recordings from the scout battle, focusing on specific moments. Watch this section. The scout ship is heavily damaged, surrounded by our fighters, outnumbered 50 to 1. Any rational species would surrender at this point. Instead, they attack. They attack because in their minds, surrender is not an option. The counselors watched the tiny human ship charge directly at the fighter formation, weapons blazing. It was either incredibly brave or completely insane. Now watch the boarding action, Vexenal continued. The display showed Vakrian warriors entering the scout ship, only to be systematically hunted and killed in the narrow corridors. 6 humans held off hundreds of our warriors. They knew the ship's layout perfectly and used it as a weapon. Every corridor became a trap. Every door a choke point. He paused the footage at a moment when Jake Morrison was firing his weapon. The human's expression was calm, focused, almost relaxed despite the chaos around him. Look at his face, Vexenal said. That is not panic. That is not fear. That is concentration. He is doing exactly what he was trained to do, and he is doing it well. All 6 of them were like this throughout the entire battle. Thexerus sat back, troubled by what he was seeing. What about their communications during the battle? What were they saying to each other? Vexenal played the audio recordings that their sensors had captured. The council listened to Jake's calm orders, Lisa's almost cheerful responses, Danny's matter-of-fact reports on targets destroyed. They did not sound like people fighting for their lives. They sounded like professionals doing a difficult job. Humans have a strange reaction to combat, Vexenol explained. Their biology floods them with chemicals during violence. Instead of making them panic, it makes them sharper, faster, more focused. They call it adrenaline. It is part of their evolution as hunters and survivors. One of the younger counselors spoke up. So we have encountered a species that is naturally good at war, trains constantly for combat, and actually performs better under stress. And we attacked their scouts. What about their actual military forces? Vexenol pulled up new intelligence. We have identified several elite human military units from their public databases. Marine divisions, special operations groups, fleet strike teams. These units train for years and undergo selection processes that reject 90% of applicants. Only the very best humans join these units. Images appeared of human soldiers in advanced armor carrying heavy weapons, their faces hidden behind helmets. They looked deadly and professional. The scout team we fought had basic training in light weapons, Vexenol said. Their firearms were designed for clearing space debris, not combat. Their armor was minimal. Their ship had almost no defensive capability. Now imagine facing these elite units with proper military equipment. The counselors were silent, imagining that scenario. If scouts could do so much damage, what could actual soldiers do? What is their total population? Thexerus asked quietly. Approximately 6 billion humans, Vexenol replied. They control 37 star systems with established colonies and military presence. Their space navy consists of over 400 ships, ranging from scouts like the one we encountered to massive carriers that can hold 100 smaller vessels. And what percentage of their population has military training? At least 15% based on their published service records. That would be 900 million trained individuals. And during major conflicts in their history, they have mobilized much larger portions of their population. They have mandatory service registration for all adults. The number hung in the air like a threat. 900 million trained soldiers with the potential to mobilize billions more if necessary. The entire Vacrian military numbered only 5 million warriors. What do you recommend, High Warlord? Thexerus asked. Vexenol chose his words carefully. We must establish peaceful relations with humanity. Open diplomatic channels, create neutral zones, begin trade negotiations. Most importantly, we must not engage them militarily unless we have no other choice. You suggest we show weakness to this new species? I suggest we show wisdom, Counselor. We built our empire by conquering species that were either technologically inferior or psychologically unprepared for war. The humans are neither. They have technology equal to ours and a cultural history of constant warfare. They know how to fight, and more importantly, they are willing to fight even when the odds look terrible. Vexenol pulled up star charts showing human territory and Vacrian territory. We have options here. We can seek conflict with a species of warriors who train from childhood and outnumber us 200 to 1, or we can seek cooperation with a species that values trade and scientific exchange almost as much as they value military strength. Thexerus studied the charts for a long time. What would happen if we mobilized our full military against them? In the short term, we might have success. We have more experience with space combat, and our warriors are well trained. But the humans would adapt quickly. They always do. Their history shows a pattern of learning from defeats and coming back stronger, and they would not stop fighting. Ever. Their culture does not accept surrender when their survival is threatened. Another counselor spoke up. You sound as if you respect them. I do, Vexenol admitted. They are worthy opponents, which is exactly why we should make them allies instead of enemies. The galaxy is large. There are other threats, other opportunities. Why waste our strength fighting a species that will never stop defending themselves when we could be working together? The council debated for hours. Some warlords wanted revenge for the humiliation at Kepler. Others saw the wisdom in Vexenol's analysis. Eventually, Thexerus made the final decision. News of the Kepler incident spread through the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. The vast network of trade routes, diplomatic channels, and intelligence operations that connected dozens of civilizations carried the story to every corner of known space. The Vacrian Empire, a military power that had conquered 7 species and controlled 15 star systems, had been fought to a standstill by 6 humans in a scout ship. Everyone wanted to know more about this new species. At Crossroads Station, a massive trading hub in neutral space, Representatives from various civilizations gathered to discuss the implications. The station was a cylinder 10 kilometers long, rotating slowly to create artificial gravity. Inside, thousands of beings from dozens of species conducted business, exchanged information, and formed alliances. Ambassador Kelris of the Seth Collective watched the leaked battle footage for the 5th time. The Seth were a race of intelligent reptilian beings who controlled a small but wealthy region of space, through trade rather than military might. They understood that information was power, and right now information about humanity was the most valuable commodity in the galaxy. Fascinating, Kelris said, his forked tongue tasting the air. The Vacrians have been expanding aggressively for years, pushing into our trade routes and demanding tribute. Now they have encountered a species that pushes back. Sitting across from him was Representative Mika Okonkwo, one of humanity's first diplomatic envoys to the wider galactic community. She had been assigned to Crossroads just 2 months ago, and was still learning the complex politics of interstellar trade. The Kepler incident had suddenly made her job much more important and much more difficult. The humans were defending themselves, Mika said carefully. They did not seek conflict, but they did not avoid it either, Kelris observed. Most species, when faced with 3 Vacrian cruisers, would have fled or surrendered. Your people attacked. This shows either great courage or great foolishness. Or proper training, Mika replied. Our scout teams are taught to defend themselves and their vessels. The Vacrians made a mistake in assuming that scouts would be defenseless. Indeed they did. Kelris's tongue flickered again, a sign of amusement among his people. This is good for the consortium. The Vacrians will be more cautious now. They know there are species willing to fight back. This may make them reconsider their expansion plans. So humanity has accidentally done you a favor? More than you know. The balance of power in this region was shifting toward the Vacrians. Now it has stabilized. We would like to establish formal trade relations with Earth. Your species has technology and resources we find interesting. Mika smiled. I think that can be arranged. Humanity is very interested in peaceful trade and scientific exchange. Similar conversations were happening throughout the station and across the galaxy. Some species saw humanity as potential allies. Others saw them as potential customers. A few saw them as potential threats. But everyone agreed that this new species could not be ignored. In a very different part of space, the Luminar Collective held their own discussions. The Luminar were beings of pure energy who existed in specially designed containment suits. They were ancient, peaceful, and incredibly advanced. They had avoided the violent expansion of younger species through technological superiority and careful diplomacy. On their crystalline homeworld, the High Council of Luminar debated humanity's place in the galactic order. Council member Shintar projected his thoughts into the shared consciousness of the council. These humans used violence to solve their problem. Shintar communicated. 6 individuals killed hundreds of Vacrian warriors. They showed no mercy, no restraint. Are these the kind of beings we want in the galactic community? Council member Lyrison offered a different perspective. They defended themselves after being attacked without provocation. The Vacrians initiated violence. The humans simply refused to be victims. Is this not justified? But the efficiency of that violence is troubling, Shintar argued. Review the tactical analysis. The humans fought with practiced skill, almost as if they enjoyed combat. Their communication during the battle showed excitement rather than fear. Perhaps that is their nature, Lyrison suggested. Evolution shaped them on a dangerous world. Combat is part of their survival instinct. But notice also that they did not pursue the Vacrians after the battle. They did not seek revenge or conquest. They defended and then stopped. This shows restraint. The council debated for hours in the timeless way of their kind. Eventually, they reached a consensus. Humanity was dangerous but not inherently aggressive. They valued both science and military strength, knowledge and survival. The Luminar would approach them carefully, offering friendship but remaining cautious. We should share some of our knowledge with them, Lyrison proposed. Not our most advanced technology, but enough to show goodwill. If we can guide them toward peaceful development, they might become valuable allies rather than future threats. Meanwhile, in the dark reaches of space far from civilized systems, the Kresh Dominion discussed humanity with very different intentions. The Kresh were raiders and slavers, a species that survived by preying on weaker civilizations. They operated from hidden bases, striking quickly and disappearing before military forces could respond. War leader Kreshtok studied the battle data with his command staff. Unlike the Luminar or the Consortium, the Kresh saw humanity purely in terms of opportunity and risk. The humans are few, Kreshtok growled, his scarred face twisted in thought. Only 37 systems. Many of their colonies are small and isolated. These would be easy targets. His intelligence officer, more cautious, highlighted the tactical analysis. War leader. 6 of their scouts defeated 3 Vakrian cruisers and hundreds of warriors. Our ships are no more powerful than Vakrian vessels. If we attack human targets, we risk the same fate. Then we use our advantages. Speed and numbers. We hit their outer colonies before they can respond, take what we want, and disappear. The humans cannot defend everywhere at once. It was a strategy that had worked for the Kresh for decades. They would soon learn that humanity had extensive experience dealing with pirates and raiders. Back on Earth, Admiral Karen Bishop stood in Fleet Command headquarters, reviewing reports from across human space. The Kepler incident had been the first contact, but intelligence suggested it would not be the last. Multiple alien species were positioning themselves along human borders, some friendly and some potentially hostile. Give me the strategic overview, Karen ordered her staff. Commander Alex Turner brought up a holographic star map. We have identified at least 6 major civilizations in our region of space. The Vakrians, who we have already encountered. The Seth Consortium, a trade-focused alliance that seems friendly. The Luminar Collective, very advanced but isolationist. The Kresh Dominion, known raiders and slavers. And several smaller independent species. Threats? The Vakrians have pulled back and are seeking diplomatic contact. The Consortium wants trade negotiations. The Luminar sent a message requesting scientific exchange. But the Kresh are concerning. Alex highlighted several systems on the map. Their operational pattern suggests they target newly discovered civilizations. They hit fast, take slaves and resources, then disappear before military forces arrive. Karen studied the Kresh pattern carefully. They are predictable. They will go after our outer colonies, thinking we cannot respond quickly enough. What assets do we have in position? The 4th Fleet is currently conducting exercises near the Rim colonies. If we reposition them slightly, they could respond to any Kresh attack within 30 minutes. Do it. Make it look like routine patrol patterns. If the Kresh are smart, they will see our ships and back off. If they are not smart, we will teach them the same lesson we taught the Vakrians. And if they still attack, Karen's expression was hard. Then the galaxy learns that humans protect their own. We are not victims. We are not easy prey. Any species that thinks they can raid our colonies will regret it. 3 weeks later, the Kresh made their move. A raiding fleet of 12 fast attack ships jumped into the New Vancouver system, a small human colony on the edge of explored space. The colony had only 50,000 people, mostly miners and their families. The Kresh expected light defenses and easy plunder. They found the 4th Fleet waiting for them. Admiral Claire Santos commanded the 4th Fleet from her flagship. She had been expecting this attack, had planned for it, and was ready to make an example that would discourage future raids. All ships, weapons free, she ordered calmly. Disable if possible, destroy if necessary. Do not let any of them escape to spread word of our positions. The battle was brief and one-sided. The Kresh ships were designed for speed and surprise attacks against defenseless targets. They were not built to fight prepared military vessels. Within 1 hour, 4 Kresh ships were destroyed. 6 were disabled and captured, and 2 had fled into faster-than-light travel. Admiral Santos made sure her message was broadcast on all frequencies, knowing that listening posts across the galaxy would pick it up. This is Admiral Claire Santos of the United Earth Space Navy. To any parties considering aggression against human interests, understand this: we are a peaceful species. We prefer trade and dialogue to violence.